The night before I resigned, I sat alone in my office on the 40th floor, staring at a blinking cursor. I had built Nova Systems from a garage idea into a company worth $400 million. Now I couldn't find the words to leave it. My phone buzzed. Elena's name flashed on the screen, then disappeared. I didn't answer. I never answered anymore. That was the problem, wasn't it? I remembered the last thing she'd said to me, 6 months ago, standing in the doorway with a suitcase in her hand. "You didn't choose me, Daniel," she'd said. "You chose this place. You just forgot to tell me." I hadn't argued. I couldn't. She was right, and we both knew it. I looked around my office now, the awards on the wall, the framed photo of the founding team from 8 years ago. Marcus was in that photo, grinning like an idiot, his arm around my shoulder. We used to finish each other's sentences. Now he barely looked at me in meetings. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Priya. "Are you still at the office?" she asked when I picked up. "Where else would I be?" "Daniel, I need to tell you something, and I need you to actually listen." "I'm listening." "People are saying things about tomorrow's board meeting." I sat up straighter. "What kind of things?" "I don't know exactly, but Tom's assistant scheduled an emergency session an hour ago, and nobody looped you in on the agenda. That's not normal. Maybe it's about the Q3 numbers." "Maybe," she said, but her voice didn't believe it. "Just be careful tomorrow." "Okay." "Priya, you're scaring me a little." "Good," she said. "You should be scared. I love you like a brother, but you've had blinders on for months." She hung up before I could ask what she meant. I sat there holding my phone, feeling the kind of cold that has nothing to do with the air conditioning. I thought about calling Marcus. We used to call each other about everything: server outages, funding rounds, stupid arguments about pizza toppings at 2 in the morning. When was the last time he'd called me about anything that wasn't strictly business? I scrolled through my messages instead. The last text from Marcus was 3 weeks old. "Running late, start without me." That was it. 9 years of friendship, and our conversation had shrunk down to logistics. I got up and walked to the window. The city looked so calm from up here, all those lights blinking like nothing was wrong. I used to love this view. Tonight it just made me feel small. The night security guard knocked on my door before his rounds. "Mr. Reyes, IT flagged some unusual access on the shared drive. Marcus's login pulled the full board correspondence folder tonight." My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice even. "That's fine. He's a co-founder. He has access." "Right. Just following protocol." He left, and I sat back down, telling myself it was nothing. Marcus reviewed board materials all the time, but Priya's warning kept echoing in my head. People are saying things. I opened my laptop and pulled up the shared drive myself, just to see what Marcus had been looking at. Half of it was routine, financial reports, vendor contracts. Then I saw a folder labeled Draft, Leadership Transition. My hands went cold before my brain caught up. I clicked it open. Inside was a document, dated 2 weeks ago, outlining a plan to restructure executive leadership at Nova Systems. My name was in it, not as the CEO, as outgoing. I read it 3 times, waiting for it to make sense some other way. It didn't. There were emails attached, a thread between Marcus and Tom Whitfield, going back over a month. Marcus writing that I had lost touch with the day-to-day, that I was resistant to necessary change, that the board should consider new leadership before the Series D closes. I felt my throat tighten. Every word was a knife, and every knife had Marcus's fingerprints on it. I called him. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Daniel? It's late. I'm looking at a folder called Leadership Transition," I said, voice steadier than I felt. Silence. Then, "Where did you find that?" "That's what you're asking me? Not let me explain?" "Daniel. 9 years, Marcus, and you couldn't just talk to me." "You wouldn't have listened," he said. "You never listen. You just do things your way and expect everyone to fall in line. So instead you went behind my back to the board." "I went to people who could actually make a decision," he said, and there was no apology in his voice. None at all. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow's meeting. That's what it's for. "Daniel, this isn't personal. This is about the company." It's always been personal to me, I said. I thought it was to you too. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking. I looked at the blank resignation document still open on my screen, the cursor still blinking, patient and indifferent. I finally understood what I had to write. Not because I wanted to, because somebody I trusted had made sure I wouldn't get the choice to stay. My phone buzzed one more time. Priya again. Did you see the folder? She asked. IT called me too. I figured you'd already found it. I found it. Daniel, I'm so sorry. I should have pushed harder to tell you sooner. You didn't know for sure. Neither did I. What are you going to do? I looked at the screen in front of me, the cursor still blinking. I don't know yet. Don't let him win by making you do something reckless, she said. Whatever you decide it clear-headed. I will. Promise me you'll call me before the meeting. Not after. I promise. She hung up, and I sat there a long time, letting the anger cool into something quieter and harder. I thought about my father, who used to say the loudest man in the room usually loses it. I thought about Elena, who'd once warned me that a company can't love you back, no matter how much you give it. I thought about walking into that boardroom and tearing Marcus apart with his own emails. Part of me wanted that more than anything, but another part of me just felt tired. Tired of fighting for a seat at a table where the person across from me had already decided I didn't belong. I started typing. I, Daniel Reyes, am resigning as Chief Executive Officer of Nova Systems, effective immediately. I stopped, deleted it, started again. By the time I finished, it was almost 4 a.m, and the city outside my window had gone quiet in the way it only does right before dawn, like it was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. I walked into the boardroom at 9 sharp, and every face turned toward me at once. Marcus was already seated, his tie straight, his hands folded like he'd rehearsed this. Tom Whitfield sat at the head of the table, flipping through a folder he clearly already knew by heart. Daniel, Tom said. Thank you for coming. Where else would I be? I said, taking my seat across from Marcus. This is my company. It's our company, Marcus said quietly. Then act like it's ours instead of drafting my exit behind closed doors. Tom cleared his throat. Let's keep this professional. I'd love to, I said. So someone explained to me why there's a folder called Leadership Transition with my name in it as outgoing. Marcus finally looked at me. Because I think it's time, Daniel. I think it's been time for a while. Time for what? For you to push me out of what I built. What we built, he said, sharper now. You keep saying I wasn't in that garage with you. Like I didn't max out my own credit cards to make payroll in year 2. I never said you weren't part of it. I felt my jaw tighten. That's not true, and you know it. Is it? Marcus leaned forward. When was the last time you asked my opinion on anything that mattered? You just tell me what's happening after you've already decided. Tom raised a hand. Gentlemen, if I may, the board has concerns that go beyond this personal dispute. Personal dispute, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it? Daniel, the investors ahead of the Series D have flagged governance concerns, Tom said. A single founder holding this much unilateral control makes them nervous. Marcus has proposed a more balanced leadership structure. Frankly, I agree with him. So this was never about Marcus and me, I said. This is about money. It's about the company's future, Tom said. It's about my future too, I said, and I heard my own voice crack slightly, which I hated. Marcus, look at me. 9 years. You're really going to sit there and tell me you did this because I hoard power? Marcus didn't blink. I did this because I deserve equal say, and you've never once been willing to give it to me. You could have asked. I did ask. Repeatedly. You just never listened. I sat back, and the room felt like it was closing in. I thought about every late night, every crisis we'd solved together, every time I defended him to investors who thought he was the weaker half of our partnership. And this was where it landed. Marcus, you told me last month you were happy, I said. You sat across from me at Delgado's dinner and told me things had never been better between us. What was I supposed to say? That I'd already started talking to Tom? Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to say. You wouldn't have heard it, Daniel. You never do. You would have found a way to talk me out of it, the way you talk everyone out of everything that isn't your idea first. So you decided lying was easier. I decided doing something was easier than watching you run this place into the ground your way, alone, forever. So what exactly are you proposing? I asked, forcing my voice steady. Co-CEO structure, Marcus said. Equal control. Equal vote on every major decision. And if I say no? Tom answered for him. Then the board will vote on new leadership entirely. We'd rather not go there, Daniel. But we will if we have to. I looked around the table at the faces I'd worked beside for years. Some avoided my eyes, some didn't. Nobody defended me. Nobody said a word. Not even Rick, who joined the board as a favor to my father years ago and usually had something sharp to say about fairness. He just stared at his hands. I need a few minutes, I said, and I walked out before anyone could respond. Sana caught me in the hallway before I even reached my office. Daniel, what happened in there? Marcus wants co-CEO. The board's backing him. Her mouth fell open. That's insane. You built this company from nothing. He's been coasting on your work for the last 2 years, and everyone knows it. Not everyone, apparently. I know it. Grace knows it. Ask anyone on the engineering floor who actually keeps this place running. Grace appeared behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight. I heard what's happening. Daniel, I want you to know, whatever you decide, I'm with you. Not the board. You. That means more than you know, I said. But I don't want either of you sticking your necks out for me. Not yet. I don't care what you want, Grace said. I've watched you give this place everything for years. I'm not going to pretend I didn't see what just happened in there. Then what are you going to do? Sana asked. I stood there a long moment, staring past her at nothing in particular. I thought about walking back into that room and fighting, reading Marcus's own emails out loud, watching his face fall in front of the board, in front of everyone. Part of me wanted that so badly it scared me, but another part of me, quieter and colder, understood something else. Fighting for a seat that had already been sold out from under me wouldn't give me back the years I'd lost to this place, or the marriage, or the friendship. It would just make me smaller in the process. I'm not going to fight for a company that already decided I'm the problem, I said finally. Grace's eyes widened. Daniel, you can't just... I already wrote it last night, I said quietly. I didn't want to believe I'd need it. I walked back into the boardroom. Marcus and Tom were mid-conversation, low voices, stopping the second I entered. I have an answer, I said. We're listening, Tom said. I placed a single folded sheet of paper on the table. This is my resignation, effective immediately. No co-CEO. No transition committee. I'm done. Marcus's expression shifted, surprise, maybe even something like guilt, gone as fast as it appeared. Daniel, that's not what I wanted. I don't care what you wanted anymore, I said. You had 6 years of my trust, Marcus. You spent it on this. I hope it was worth it. Tom opened the folded paper, scanning it quickly. This is remarkably brief. There's nothing else that needs saying, I said. You'll have my access revoked by end of day. Good luck with the Series D. I turned and walked out, past Sano and Grace, who watched me with a mixture of shock and something close to grief. I didn't stop. I didn't trust myself to. Behind me, I heard Tom's voice, muffled through the closing door. Well, that was unexpected. It was the last thing I heard as Nova Systems CEO. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel free. I just felt hollowed out, like something essential had been carved from my chest and left on that boardroom table along with my resignation letter. I hadn't even made it to the parking garage before my phone started buzzing. Text after text, faster than I could read them. By the time I sat in my car, my screen showed 43 notifications from the company Slack, all in a channel I'd muted years ago because it was mostly memes. I opened it anyway. Someone had screenshot my resignation note and posted it with 3 words. Is this real? The replies came in waves. Shock, disbelief, a string of question marks from an engineer I barely knew. Then, underneath all of it, something I hadn't expected, anger. Not at me, at the board. My phone rang. Sana, Daniel, it's chaos over here, she said, breathless. People are losing their minds. Half of engineering is standing outside my office right now. I didn't want this to blow up, I said. I just wanted to leave quietly. Well, it's not quiet. I'm calling an emergency meeting in 20 minutes. People need to hear something from someone, and it's not going to be Marcus. Sana, you don't have to do that. I'm not doing it for you, she said. I'm doing it for them. They deserve to know what actually happened, not whatever spin Tom's going to put on it. I sat there in the parking garage, gripping the steering wheel, not driving anywhere. Be careful. Don't put your job on the line for me. Too late, she said. 3 of us are already talking about walking if this stands. Raj said it flat out. If you're gone by nightfall, so is he. Sana. I have to go. I'll call you after. She hung up, and I sat there a long moment, staring at nothing. I hadn't expected loyalty like that. I'd expected relief, maybe. A quiet transition. Instead, I'd apparently lit a fuse. I opened Slack again, unable to stop myself. Someone had posted a photo of the whiteboard from the engineering floor. Someone had drawn a rough sketch of me next to the words, "Not the problem." Underneath, dozens of reactions, hearts, and raised fists. I closed the app before I could feel too much about it. My phone rang again. This time it was Grace. "You're not going to believe what's happening down here," she said. "Try me." James overheard his brother on a call with an investor, laughing, saying something like the hard part's over. James looked sick, Daniel. He came straight to my office afterward and just sat there for 10 minutes without saying anything. He's an intern. He shouldn't be in the middle of any of this. He's not in the middle of it. He's just realizing what his brother did. There's a difference. How old is he? 21. 20. He idolizes Marcus, Daniel. Or he did. I think today changed something in him. I closed my eyes. What did he say when he finally talked? He asked me if what Marcus did was actually wrong, or if he was just being dramatic. I told him to ask himself why it felt wrong if it wasn't. That's a good answer. I have good answers sometimes, Grace said. Anyway, I wanted you to know people down here haven't forgotten what you built. Whatever happens next, remember that. Thank you, Grace. Really. Don't thank me yet. Thank me after this whole thing stops being a mess. I thanked her and hung up, and for a moment I let myself feel something other than grief, something almost like pride, tangled up with all the rest of it. Then my phone rang a third time, and this one made my chest tighten before I even answered. Hi, Mom. Daniel, honey, are you all right? Priya called me. Priya called you. She was worried. Said you resigned this morning. Is that true? It's true. There was a long pause on the line. Your father used to say something, you know, right before everything fell apart with his business partner. He said pride is a slow poison. You don't feel it killing you until you're already gone. I'm not Dad, Mom. I know that. But you sound exactly like him right now. Trying to be strong and quiet instead of just being honest about how much this hurts. I don't know how else to be, Mom. I never learned how. You learned it from him, she said gently. That's not your fault. But you can unlearn it too, if you choose to. My throat tightened. It hurts a lot. Then say that. Don't swallow it the way he did. He spent the last 10 years of his life angry at a man who wasn't even thinking about him anymore. I don't want that for you. Marcus betrayed me, Mom. That's not the same as being prideful. I'm not saying it's the same. I'm saying don't let what he did turn into who you become. That's the part your father got wrong. He let the anger become the whole story until there was nothing left of him but the grudge. I don't want that. Then don't let it happen. It's a choice, Daniel, every single day. Some days you'll choose it easily. Other days you'll have to fight for it. I didn't answer right away. Outside my car window, the city kept moving like nothing had happened. Cars and buses and people who had no idea their morning commute had coincided with the end of the only identity I'd known for 9 years. I'll try, I finally said. That's all I'm asking, she said. Call me tonight. And Daniel, I'm proud of you. Whatever happens next. I hung up and sat there, letting her words settle over the anger like a blanket that didn't quite cover everything. My phone buzzed one more time, A text from Priya. Marcus is losing it. Slack is on fire, 3 resignations already on his desk, and someone leaked the co-CEO proposal to a tech reporter. He thought this would look like a win. It doesn't. I read it twice, and despite everything, I felt something shift in my chest. Not triumph, exactly, but something close to it. I hadn't fought for this. I hadn't leaked anything, hadn't said a single vindictive word since walking out of that boardroom. The company was doing it on its own. Marcus had wanted control so badly he'd forgotten that people, not titles, were what actually held Nova Systems together. I started my car and drove home, my mother's voice still echoing in my head, warning me not to let this become the whole story. I didn't know yet if I could listen to her, but for the first time all day, I let myself believe that maybe I wouldn't have to fight for the truth to come out. Maybe it already was. 3 days after I resigned, I hadn't left my apartment once. I told myself it was rest. It wasn't. It was hiding, and some part of me knew it. My phone had become a museum of unanswered calls. Reporters, old colleagues, a headhunter who clearly hadn't read the news carefully. I let all of them go to voicemail. The only messages I answered were from Sana, Grace, and Priya, and even those I kept short. I spent most of those 3 days staring at a blank document, drafting and deleting the same post. A public statement. The truth, laid out plainly. Marcus's emails, his months of quiet maneuvering, the whole ugly picture. I wrote it 7 different ways. I never posted any of them. On the 4th morning, someone knocked on my door. I opened it expecting a delivery. Instead, Rick Delgado stood there in his old brown coat, looking at me like he already knew everything. "You look terrible," he said, walking past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. "Thanks, Rick. I mean it. Sit down before you fall down." "I'm fine, Rick." "You're not fine. You're a man who built something for 9 years and lost it in one morning. Nobody's fine after that." I Saturday. He didn't, choosing instead to stand by the window, looking out at the city like he was the one who owned it. "Your mother called me," he said. "Told me what happened." "Of course she did. She's worried you're going to do something you'll regret." "Like what?" "Sitting in my apartment. Like posting whatever you've been drafting on that laptop of yours." He nodded toward it, sitting open on my coffee table. "I know that look, Daniel. Your father had it too, right before he burned down 20 years of a partnership over a grudge that didn't even matter in the end." "Marcus lied to my face for months," I said. "That matters." "I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying revenge has a cost, and it's never the person you're aiming at who pays it first. So I'm just supposed to let him get away with it." Rick finally sat down across from me. "I didn't say that. I said revenge born out of anger burns the person holding the torch before it ever reaches the target. Your father spent his last 10 years angry at a man who barely remembered his name. He missed your college graduation because he was too busy drafting legal letters nobody ever read. Is that the life you want?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the post I'd drafted, the satisfaction I imagined feeling watching it spread the way my resignation had. It felt good in my head. I wasn't sure it would feel good anywhere else. "So what do I do instead?" I asked. "Just disappear?" "No," Rick said. "You let the truth find its own way out, if it wants to. And you build something better with whatever's left of you. That's not surrender, Daniel. Silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the hardest fight there is." My phone buzzed before I could respond. "Grace, I need you to see something," she said when I picked up. "Can I come by?" She arrived 20 minutes later, laptop bag over her shoulder, looking like she hadn't slept much either. She sat at my kitchen table and opened her laptop. "I've been documenting things for weeks," she said. "Not because I suspected this exactly, but because HR complaints about Marcus kept crossing my desk and something felt off." "What kind of complaints?" "Employees saying he pressured them to sign statements supporting the restructuring. One engineer said Marcus implied her visa sponsorship might be reconsidered if she didn't back him. I have it documented, time-stamped, everything." "How long has this been going on?" "Months, from what I can tell. Long before you ever found that folder." He was building his case quietly, one signature at a time, while telling the board it was a groundswell of support. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. That's not ambition. That's coercion. I know, Grace said. I haven't sent this to anyone yet. I wanted you to see it first. Why me? I don't work there anymore. Because you're still the reason most of these people trusted the company enough to speak up in the first place. Rick watched this exchange quietly, saying nothing, but I saw something shift in his expression, like he approved of the direction things were taking. My phone buzzed again. Priya, I need to tell you something, she said when I answered. I resigned an hour ago. Priya, no. You didn't have to do that. I did, actually. I've been keeping records too, Daniel. Emails, meeting notes, things Marcus said in private that never should have been said. I couldn't keep pretending I worked for people I didn't respect. What are you going to do with it? Nothing yet. I just wanted you to know I'm not going anywhere. Whatever this becomes, I'm in it. Priya, you had a good career there. A real future. I had a future working for people I couldn't trust, she said. That's not a future. That's a slow leak. I'd rather start over clean than keep pretending. I sat there after the calls ended, Grace still across from me, Rick still by the window, and felt something I hadn't let myself feel in days. Not vindication exactly, but the beginning of it. The truth wasn't something I had to force into the light. It was already finding its own way there, carried by people who'd decided on their own that silence cost more than speaking up. This doesn't feel like losing anymore, I said quietly. It shouldn't, Rick said. Losing is what happens when you let anger make your decisions for you. This is something else. I wanted to believe him completely. But later that night, after Grace and Rick had gone, I got a text from an old contact at one of Nova's investment firms. Heard things are shaky over there. Word is Series D investors are getting cold feet. Hope you're doing okay. I read it twice, feeling the ground shift again. Dignity was easy to believe in during the daylight, surrounded by people who still believed in me. Alone at night, with the company I'd built possibly collapsing without me, it felt a lot harder to trust. I thought about texting back, asking for details, maybe even asking if there was still time to fix things. I typed 3 different replies and deleted every one. Whatever I chose next, I didn't want it to come from fear. Not tonight. I set the phone down and let the silence sit with me instead, uncomfortable as it was. A week after I resigned, Sana called me sounding like she hadn't slept in days. Daniel, I have to tell you what happened today, she said. I confronted Marcus. Right in the middle of the engineering floor. You didn't. I did. He called an all-hands to address morale issues, and I just couldn't sit there and listen to him talk about culture like he understands what that word even means. What did you say to him? I asked him, in front of everyone, why 3 senior engineers had resigned in the last 5 days. He gave some corporate line about natural attrition during a transition period. I told him it wasn't attrition. It was people who finally saw him clearly. Sana. I wasn't done. I told him you never once made anyone feel small in a room, and has done it twice this week alone. I told him this company ran on trust, and he burned through it in 6 months trying to prove he mattered as much as you. How did he take that? He turned white, Daniel. Just stood there. Didn't have a comeback. For once in his life, Marcus Cole didn't have a comeback. Did anyone back him up? Nobody said a word in his defense. Not one person. You could feel the whole room agreeing with me, even the ones who've never liked me much. I sat with that for a moment, picturing it, feeling something complicated stir in my chest. Not quite satisfaction. Something closer to sadness for what we'd all lost. What happened after? He ended the meeting early. Practically ran to his office. Gray said his assistant heard him on the phone right after, and it didn't sound like a happy call. My phone buzzed with another call before I could respond to Sana. I told her I'd call back and picked up. Daniel, it's Grace. I sent the whistleblower report to the board this morning. How did they respond? Tom called me personally. He sounded shaken. Said he wants to meet with legal before the week is out. Does he believe it? He said, and I'm quoting him exactly, I should have looked closer before I sided against Daniel. I think the numbers are scaring him as much as the ethics. 2 major clients paused their contracts this week. The Series D is basically frozen. What did Tom say about the clients? He said if this keeps going, There won't be a company left for anyone to be co-CEO of. I think that scared him more than the ethics ever could, if I'm honest. That's not what I wanted, Grace. I didn't want the company to fall apart. I know, but you didn't do this. Marcus did, one bad decision at a time. You just stopped covering for the cracks. I thanked her and sat there a long moment after we hung up, staring at my own reflection in the dark television screen across the room. I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt like I was watching a slow-motion collapse of something I'd spent 9 years building, even if I wasn't the one holding the wrecking ball anymore. Priya called an hour later. "You're not going to believe what James did," she said. "James? Marcus's brother." He walked into Marcus's office this afternoon. Grace was outside getting coffee and heard the whole thing through the door. "What did he say?" "He told Marcus he was ashamed of him. Those exact words. Said he used to think Marcus was the smartest person he knew, and now all he sees is someone who lied to get what he wanted and hurt a lot of good people doing it." "How did Marcus react?" Grace said he didn't yell. He just went quiet. Really quiet. Like it actually landed, for once. "Did James say anything else?" "He told Marcus their mother would be heartbroken if she knew half of what he'd done to get here." Grace said that's when Marcus finally sat down, like his legs stopped working. I closed my eyes, picturing Marcus alone in that office, hearing those words from his own brother. Whatever anger I still carried toward him, I couldn't quite enjoy imagining that moment. It felt too much like watching someone drown, even someone who'd pushed me under first. "Priya, do you think he regrets it?" "I think he regrets how it's turning out," she said. "I'm not sure that's the same as regretting what he did. Not yet, anyway." "What's the difference?" "One's about consequences. The other's about conscience. He might get there. He's not there yet." I sat with that for a long time after we hung up. I thought about calling Marcus myself, asking him directly if any of this had changed anything in him. I picked up my phone twice and put it down twice. Instead, I called my mother. "You sound different tonight," she said when she picked up. "I don't know how to feel," I admitted. "Everyone keeps telling me things are falling apart over there, and some part of me wants to feel good about it. But I don't. I just feel sad." "That's because you're not him, Daniel. You never wanted to watch anyone burn. Not even someone who hurt you this badly. Is that a good thing?" "It's the best thing about you," she said. "Don't let anyone talk you out of it, including yourself." Sometimes I wonder if that's weakness, Mom. If I should want more than this. Wanting to watch someone suffer isn't strength, Daniel. It just feels like it in the moment. Real strength is what you're doing right now, staying yourself even when staying yourself doesn't feel satisfying. I stayed on the phone with her another 20 minutes, talking about nothing important, letting her voice ground me the way it always had since I was a kid. When I finally hung up, the apartment felt quieter than it had in days. Not empty exactly, but settled. My phone buzzed one more time before I went to bed. A text from Sana. "Tom just called an emergency board session for tomorrow morning. He wants Marcus there. He wants me there too, as an employee representative. Something's about to happen, Daniel. I can feel it." I read the message twice, feeling my pulse quicken despite myself. I didn't know yet what tomorrow would bring, whether it would feel like justice or just more grief dressed up as one. But I understood, lying there in the dark, that whatever Marcus had built in my absence wasn't a company anymore. It was a house made of the trust he'd spent, one lie at a time, and it was finally starting to fall. I set my phone on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling for a long time before sleep found me, wondering if tomorrow would finally answer the question I hadn't let myself ask out loud, whether any of this could still be saved, or whether some things, once broken, simply stayed that way. Tom called me himself the morning after the board session, his voice hoarse like he hadn't slept. "Daniel, the board voted last night. Unanimously. Marcus is out, effective immediately." I heard the report was bad. Bad doesn't cover it. Coercion, misrepresentation to the board, falsified support for the restructuring. Legal is already involved. He paused. "We want to offer you your position back. Full authority. No co-CEO, no conditions. Just say the word." I sat with that for a long moment, staring out my window at the same city that had looked so heavy the night I wrote my resignation. "Can I think about it?" Take the day, Tom said. But Daniel, I owe you an apology. I should have trusted you over him from the start. I let the numbers talk me out of what I already knew. Thank you for saying that, Tom. It means something, even now. For what it's worth, most of the board feels the same way. This wasn't a hard vote. I hung up and sat there, waiting for the relief to hit. It didn't. Instead, I felt something quieter, something that had been building since the night Priya first warned me something was wrong. I called Sana. They offered me my job back, I said. That's incredible, Daniel. When do you start? I'm not taking it. Silence on the line. Wait, what? I don't want to walk back into the same building, the same politics, the same board that only trusted me again once the numbers forced their hand. I want to build something new, something that doesn't run on fear or control. Are you serious right now? Completely. I'm starting a new company. Small, at first, but built the way Nova should have been from day one. Trust first, everything else second. What would you even call it? I don't know yet. Something that doesn't sound like a monument to my own name, probably. This isn't about me this time. Count me in, Sana said instantly. I don't even need to think about it. You'd be walking away from a senior role at an established company. I'd be walking towards something that actually matters, she said. Half the engineering floor would follow you tomorrow if you asked. You know that, right? I didn't know that. Not really, not until I started making calls that afternoon. Priya said yes before I finished the sentence. Grace said she'd been hoping I'd ask. Even Raj, who'd threatened to resign the day I left, called me back within the hour saying he'd already cleared out his desk. By evening, I had a list of 11 people, nearly the entire senior team that had built Nova's best work, all willing to walk away from stability to start over with nothing but an idea and each other. I don't understand, I told Priya on the phone that night. Why would all of you risk this for me? It was never just about you, she said. It's about what you made possible. A place where people mattered more than metrics. We're not chasing you, Daniel. We're chasing that. I hope I can actually build it, I admitted. Nova started as an idea too, and look how that ended. It ended because of one person's insecurity, not because the idea was wrong. Don't confuse the two. I sat with that for a long time after we hung up, feeling something settle in my chest that I hadn't felt in months. Not vindication. Something closer to purpose. 2 days later, an email arrived from Marcus. No subject line. I almost didn't open it. Daniel, I don't expect you to respond to this, and I don't deserve to be responded to. I told myself for months that what I was doing was fair, that I deserved more credit, more control. I see now it was never about fairness. It was about how small I felt standing next to you for 9 years. I'm sorry. Truly. I hope whatever you build next reminds you of who you were before any of this. Marcus. I read it twice. I felt the old anger rise, briefly, and then settle back down into something quieter. I didn't write back. Some apologies aren't meant to be answered. They are meant to be carried by the person who wrote them, alone, for as long as it takes to mean something. I closed the laptop and sat there for a while, thinking about how easy it would have been, weeks ago, to write back something sharp, something that made sure he felt every bit of what he'd cost me. It didn't feel like restraint anymore. It just felt like who I actually was. That weekend, I drove to Elena's apartment without calling first. She opened the door looking surprised, then something softer. I heard what happened, she said. All of it. I'm starting something new, I told her. Something smaller. I don't know yet if it'll work. That's not why you're here. No, I admitted. I'm here because losing Nova taught me something I should have learned a long time ago. I chose the company over you, over everyone, for years. I told myself it was temporary, that once things stabilized I'd have time for what mattered. There was never going to be a stopping point. I made the choice every single day, and I never once told you I was making it. Elena's eyes were wet, but she didn't look away. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, Daniel. I left because I couldn't keep loving someone who wasn't there. I know that now. I'm not asking you to come back. I just needed you to know I finally understand what I lost, and it wasn't the company. What made you understand it? Losing the title, or losing everything that came with it? Both, I think. But mostly it was watching people choose me for reasons that had nothing to do with a paycheck or a job title. It made me realize I'd spent years measuring myself the wrong way. You tried to tell me that once. I wasn't ready to hear it. She stepped forward and hugged me, the first real hug we'd shared in over a year. Neither of us said anything else. We didn't need to. Driving home that night, I thought about the resignation note still sitting somewhere in a board folder, for sentences that had ended one chapter of my life and started another I never would have chosen for myself. I thought about Sana, Priya, Grace, and everyone else who'd chosen me not because of a title, but because of what we'd built together. I thought about Marcus too, alone now in a company that had cost him everything he'd claimed to want. I hadn't lost everything the day I walked out of that boardroom. I'd finally found out what was actually worth keeping.